Welcome to On the Level Leadership. I'm TDP and this is your On the Level Leadership moment. Welcome to the very first episode of On the Level Leadership Moments. As you can see behind me, there's really not much on the walls, and that's primarily because this vlog is kind of just developing as we go along, and this is my very first one to talk about leadership issues. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge Disney fan. In fact, Walt Disney himself was a man that I wish I could have been able to meet at some point in my life, but unfortunately the man died in the late 60s. And I was only born in 72, so wasn't going to happen. But I gotta say, there's one thing about Walt Disney and the corporation that really continues to follow and ascribe to Walt Disney's vision, and it's that they are parks meant to allow the entire family, from children to adults, to have fun together and enjoy each other's company. That is something that I absolutely love about the parks. But more importantly, what did we learn from Walt Disney from a leadership perspective? The first big lesson is dream big. That's a huge one. Have a very large vision. Anybody who's anybody in the leadership story today, whether it be Tony Robbins, whether it be Jack Canfield, or whether it be Walt Disney, Kouzes and Posner is another set of authors you really need to look up. They wrote The Leadership Challenge, really good book, got the links down below. But one of the greatest things is to have a great vision, to have a big idea, and to really kind of nurture that big vision and big idea. Leaders are visionaries. They're able to think outside the box. They see things in a different way. Maybe they see a new approach or a new technique or a new product or a new service that could really be offered, that could really provide that much more of an enhanced experience. And Walt Disney had a huge vision for what he wanted in life. He wanted to be able to have animation that was above and beyond anything else that existed. His main competitor at the time was Universal. And, they really kind of fought back and forth on the rights to various things as they went along. But one thing that Walt Disney always had was a vision for himself. He saw himself as a leader in animation. He really wanted to be able to connect animation and real life in a way that no one else had. He wanted to make animation almost look real so that he could tell his stories in a way that he really wanted to. That vision, the dream, if you will, is what actually pulled people in, because that vision enabled his passion to come through. And if anybody's ever watched anything about Walt Disney, one of the things you do learn very early on is that early in life, all he had was vision. He really didn't come from money. The guy came from very humble beginnings. I mean, Walt Disney went through bankruptcy, he went through being kicked out of his apartment. The man went through a ton of stuff and yet was able to keep his vision of what it is that he wanted to have happen for him and for his career and for his animations and for his cartoons and all of the stories he had in his head that he wanted to tell. Have vision, really important. The second thing that I saw I'm going to link, by the way, an article that I read that kind of gave me the idea for this vlog, because I was 100% on board with this article, so I'm kind of taking a bit of content from that. But let me tell you that the phrase that's actually used in this, and I quote, is "keep on keeping on." Walt Disney went through a lot of trial and tribulation, and one thing that a leader can really do is bring people along even through the most difficult times. In fact, we're the ones that are supposed to be saying, okay guys, it's rough right now. Yeah, I get it's not perfect. Yeah, I know we're not doing exactly what we want, but because this is our vision and this is where we want to go, guess what? Hang on to me, hang on to the coattails. We're going to get there, and there's going to be a little bit of bumpy ride along the way, but we're definitely going to get there. A leader's ability is to bring people along, not drag them along, but actually have them willingly want to come with you to see what that vision and what that end state's going to actually look like. It's very exciting, and so that's what you really want to do, is you want to be able to bring people along. So keeping on through difficult times is definitely a fantastic lesson to take home. The third thing that I learned from Walt Disney and from various articles online, if you look it up, is storytelling is powerful. Absolutely, the one thing that Walt Disney World does beyond his death, what the corporation continues to do, is tell stories. One of my most favorite movies recently is Moana. And the reason why I love Moana is it's not just about the animation, which is phenomenal, it's spectacular. What I love about Moana is the story the story behind this little girl who is basically told out of fear she should stick to her island and she shouldn't be trying to stretch and it's too dangerous out there in the real world, and who learns to trust her instinct thanks to a leader, a guide in her life, her grandmother, who basically says, you can do this. So, the storytelling behind this girl who goes out into the ocean and finds herself and in the process saves her community and saves the world essentially, is a fantastic story. It's a powerful one, and it has some really good deep-rooted lessons in it. And the thing that Disney World is phenomenal about is telling stories. Now, that said though, some of the older movies that Disney's put out, let's be honest, the story's a little bit on the racist or the sexist or the misogynistic sort of side of things. But that goes with the history of the older movies. I mean, if you watch Peter Pan and you watch the whole What Makes a Red Man Red song, it makes you cringe because you're thinking, wow, man, how can we have a movie like that in this day and age actually still be on DVD? But that's the reason why we don't have the Song of the South anymore. But the reality is that regardless of what age Disney's movies come out at, they have the ability to tell amazing stories. That's exactly what Walt Disney wanted. All of his animations from very early on was about telling a story, and he really felt passionate about that. Leaders are able to tell stories because stories are what bring people together. It's an old-aged human connection piece. We as humans love to tell stories. And in telling stories around the fire, for example, when you tell ghost stories and so on, it brings you together as a community. Leaders are able to take those stories and tell those stories in a way that allows people to really see the vision that's in front of them so that they'll willingly follow even through the most difficult keep on, keeping on time frames. And finally, the fourth item that I really like to take on today is go big or go home. Now, that kind of fits in with have vision, right? Have a big vision, have a big dream. But go big or go home incites risk. It implies the ability to tolerate risk. Now, when you think about Walt Disney's big break, his big break came with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. That was really his break. That movie was a very difficult one to make for him. It went way over budget. He ended up having to mortgage his house in order to pay for that movie. When we say go big or go home, we weren't kidding. Walt Disney put his entire life on the line, his entire personal life on the line to make that movie happen. Not only did that movie happen, but it actually essentially broke the ice for Walt Disney in terms of his ability to stand on stage and be the man that he was, who had the story that he had to tell, who had the wonderful animation with the beautiful voices that he had in that movie. It was incredible. I mean, he got Oscars for that movie, and that was really the breaking point for him, and it was the launching pad that he needed to be able to get to the next stage. So sometimes go big or go home is kind of an important thing. Now, I challenge myself to this, and I got to admit, I am a wimp when it comes to taking risks. But one of the things as managers, or as leaders rather, in an organization we have to do is we need to be willing to risk. We need to be willing to give it all. And if we're willing to do that, man, that vision, those dreams, that perspective can actually happen. And I think, in the words of Jiminy Cricket, when you wish upon a star, makes no difference who you are. Anything your heart desires will come to you. That's the vision that Disney had. And I think that is what we have to take away for today. To recap, here are your 4 leadership lessons for today's On the Level Leadership Moment. The first is never stop dreaming. Always have a big dream and a big vision. The second is keep on keeping on. Remember that Disney suffered a bunch of setbacks, and yet he continued to press on, and we now have a wonderful world of Disney to enjoy. Storytelling is powerful. Again, leaders are adept at this and are really good at telling stories. And finally, go big or go home, because without risk, there's no reward. That's it for this week's On the Level Leadership Moment. It's been great having you. See you next time.